Hey there. Today's my birthday, and I'm not here to talk about that, but it's a really good segue into what I do want to talk about, which is when we give ourselves permission to celebrate. Now, my name's Danielle. I'm a community mentor. A big part of my work is helping community builders and transformational leaders navigate the waves of change on their way towards a vision of something that's never been built before. My work is very much for the people who don't have a set pathway to get what they want. And when you don't have that set pathway, when you don't have the social structures already existing to tell you when to celebrate your accomplishments or your goals or your manifestations or what steps are meaningful, you have to do that work yourself. And most of us, especially if we're on a personal growth journey that maybe takes us off the beaten path, most of us under-celebrate our accomplishments. A lot of the biggest things that we maybe have to walk through, we don't have an easy way to tell our friends about it, let alone our family, right? We might go through these initiations or have these epic realizations that most other people are not equipped to meet us at. And that can be very tough. And if you're, again, someone who's in the midst of building community or working towards organizing something that a lot of people would love to tell you is not worth it or is not going to work or makes no sense, you don't have those milestones that are easily celebrated. And I know this very intimately as a business owner who's been building vibrant systems from basically nothing. Like even when I started, you can go back and watch, I think my favorite video on this topic is I Almost Quit Vibrant Systems. You can go and watch that for the full story, but it started as this idea of this is something I could do and these are things I can care about or do care about. And it's been on a constant spiral of evolution to get to where I am now, to where I sit in front of you today. Even just going back to videos from January, I feel like I'm a totally different person. So when I talk about my birthday, yes, I'm a Leo, obviously I like to talk about my birthday, but more importantly, our birthdays are something that we have the social permission to celebrate, right? And for many of us, especially those of us who maybe haven't gotten married or haven't had kids or did those things but then went away from that path in some way that's not necessarily socially acceptable, we don't have a lot of other things to celebrate. We don't have spaces where we create or cultivate this space of, oh my gosh, you did it. There was probably hard things in that, but you overcome them. You're here now. Good job. We don't do that. And it's such an important part of our growth or our organizing or our transformations, whether that is personally or it is collectively. Now, what is worth celebrating? Ultimately, that's up to you. Whatever feels big for you is something worth celebrating, of course. And this can be something that to other people looks very, very small. Celebrating stepping outside of your comfort zone by doing something you've always wanted to do but never felt confident enough to do, that's worth celebrating. Celebrating the completion of a project that nobody asked you to do and maybe you haven't sold any copies to this course or this book. My cat's going to be anticked full today. Maybe you haven't sold any copies. You haven't had any external validation for this project you've poured all your energy into, but you finished it. That is worth celebrating. That is worth taking time to sit with that accomplishment and sit with the growth that came through birthing that thing. It is worth celebrating emotional healing steps or realizations that came in and yeah, maybe you told your friend about it and they're like, oh yeah, I've always thought that. Don't let them steal your thunder. Celebrate it. There is so much to celebrate in the world, whether it's the first bloom of a flower in spring, or it's that first harvest of apples from your tree in your backyard, or it's just a really sunny day after a long stretches of rainstorms. We don't even have to celebrate personal growth. We can celebrate anything in the world around us. We can celebrate our friends. We can celebrate our coworkers. We can celebrate ourselves. We can celebrate different stages of our vision or our actions. All of these things matter. All of these things are important. And yet, just because we don't have the social permission to lean into, to set aside time to honor those parts of our journey, just because it's not on a calendar, we forget. And this video is in part to remind you of why celebrating is so important and so impactful. But it's also an opportunity to dream, right? I think this is something, I tried recording this video last week and I was like, why am I doing it then? I should do it on my birthday. But this was a part of it that I really wanted to deepen into. And it was something that was really affirmed to me while doing coursework with Dr. Rocio Rosales Meza. I will include her information below. But when we celebrate, often it's marking some sort of milestone, some sort of becoming, some sort of period of time even, right? Like, especially if it's building a new habit, marking periods of time, and that is incredibly powerful. To celebrate isn't just to throw a party or to have some drinks or to eat food that we don't always get to eat. It isn't just that. It is a space, a marker in time, a conscious choice to be like, this is important. It is a moment of validation for you and what matters to you or the people around you. And not only does this milestone mark a period of time where we get to honor and celebrate what we've already done, the passing of another year or the growth or the completion of something, a period in the cycle that brings us into that embodied awareness of where we're at. It is also a point in time that helps us feel safe and grounded and satisfied enough where we can vision what comes next in the future, what we desire, what maybe our next steps or goals are. It's a place, a ceremony for that helps us imagine what those next steps are going to be. And I really want to bring us into this point by offering us a reflection on how simply blowing out a birthday candle with a wish is this exact practice. People pouring in to share well wishes and their love and their, amazement at your accomplishments or their excitement for your future is this practice. And I want you to imagine for just a moment what might your life start to look like if you not only take that time to bring that celebration for yourself more often, especially in those personal win moments that it feels like no one else is going to celebrate, or in your organizing movement where, okay, maybe it's not a milestone that a big nonprofit might celebrate, but it's really meaningful to your neighborhood or your club or your organization or your friend group. What does it look like to pour more of that positive energy and intention and hope and excitement for the future into your life regularly? I feel so often that when we celebrate, it's seen as something flippant. Even this concept that past a certain age of life, you shouldn't celebrate your birthday anymore. Yes, how we celebrate might change. And if celebrating your birthday really isn't for you, that's okay. I'm not saying it needs to be. But this socially written rule that after a certain age, only certain birthdays become relevant, I reject that. Flat out, I reject that. I think every single year of life we live, every single day of life we live can be so full of meaningful and intentional growth and impactful choices that they deserve to be honored, again, in whatever way actually feels like a celebration for you. If a birthday party feels like a performance and that's not true to you, don't do it, of course. But if sitting there and eating this luxurious chocolate cake or setting up some candles or doing a little ritual around it does feel celebratory, then how can you bring more of that energy into your life? What matters to you? What are your values? What are your priorities? And how do you actually mark their importance in your own way? And this values piece, I think, is so critical. Again, don't mind the noise in the background, it's just my cat. This values piece is so critical because if we don't actually take the time to understand our values, understand what actually matters to us, what has weight, what has meaning for us, if we don't do that work, then we're going to end up pouring that celebratory energy into something that we don't actually find meaningful. For example, for many people, getting married is super valuable. It's super important. Partnership has a really important role in their life. And I love that for them, right? I love taking this time to celebrate love and partnership, especially when they are people who are doing that work. My brother is getting married later this summer, and so this is also a very prominent theme for me right now. But as someone who is currently single, who has so many of my own goals and my own growth that's taking on my energy to the point where I'm not closed off to dating, but it's not a priority for me right now. How I think of marriage, or how I think of this long-term partnership, or how I would celebrate it, at least in this point of my life, is very, very different to how I'm seeing it celebrated otherwise. But that aligns with my values. It doesn't mean I don't still value it in some way, and it doesn't mean that I don't value how others are celebrating it, but I'm pouring my celebratory energy, my excitement, my visioning, my inspiration into my business right now, into the things I'm creating, the courses I'm working on, into how I meet with friends and how I engage with others on this same journey, how I build this collective network that is Vibrant Systems, how I can help people like you reach their goals. And this clarity has to come from knowing what actually matters to me at this point in my life, because our values do change. Let's not deny that either. Things will happen in our life where suddenly something that we never cared about before becomes super critical and important. And we're allowed to be fluid in that way. That's exactly why I have the value identification and exploration workbook, because it can make our values and priorities and whether we're actually living our life by those values and priorities super incredibly clear. And I highly recommend it for anyone who's maybe checking off a lot of things on a list, but it's not bringing them joy. Celebrating it doesn't feel satisfying or exciting. If that's you, then the value identification and exploration workbook is made for you so that you can start celebrating the things you actually care about. So, to sum up, because I don't want this to be a super long video because it's my birthday today and I've got things to do for myself. To sum up, I want to end on the note that celebrating isn't shallow. It's not flippant. It's not childish. It's not naive. As I love my cat. I really do. And normally he's very quiet for my videos, which is why you don't hear him. But today, he has a lot of energy. His name's Leo too, so it's appropriate, I suppose. All right, where was I? Celebrating is not naive. It's not childish. It's not flippant. It is a part of continuing our conscious commitment to what we care about. And if that care is community organizing, if that care is building something or walking a pathway towards collective justice, if that care is our personal growth and being able to show up not just for our family and friends better, but for ourselves better, then those things deserve to be celebrated. They deserve to be honored. What you care about deserves ceremony and fanfare and ritual, because this affirms that care. It affirms the value of what you value. It helps us stay committed to a long-term, sustained impact, whether that's in our personal lives or beyond ourselves. And it allows us, it helps us pour in or give a direction to pour in excitement and hope for the goals we have in the future, what vision we're actually working towards. And celebrating, again, it's not flippant, it's not naive, because it is a tool, it is a fundamental human practice that has been around far longer than any of us, far longer than any of the systems we currently live in. It is human. And to pour into that, to deepen into that, to allow ourselves to truly celebrate, not just on this surface level, let's get drunk and have a party way, but to bring that intention and weight to that celebration, to let ourselves see it more deeply, is going to transform your life. It's going to transform your movements. And it is something that I help communities weave into their strategies, their visions, as a community mentor who offers people first change management. This is such a foundational part of bringing in balance and energy and commitment to the hard things we have to do to bring forward what we want to see. We deserve to have joy on these paths that we're walking. And celebrating, ceremony, ritual, however you want to phrase it, is how we can do that. It is one way we can honor the weight of what we're doing. My name's Danielle. If you want to see more leadership development insights or community building offerings such as this, more about people first change management and how we actually make transformation sustainable, then please subscribe. I post videos weekly to help you on your journey, and let's make your story a vibrant one. Check out that value identification and exploration workbook if you are resonating with that, because honestly, it's probably my favorite resource that I've ever created with vibrant systems. All right, have a great day.